everybody. Welcome to DLA. David Lombardino here. Today I have the pleasure to be speaking with Alan Braddock. Alan is a tax attorney with ExxonMobil and a self-confessed Roman and Byzantine history nerd. He's recently taken the plunge into writing his first novel, a work of historical fiction. Alan, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, your novel, and what brought you to DLA?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, first, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, so a little bit about myself. I am originally from West Texas. I grew up out in Lubbock. I then played my undergrad at Oklahoma State, and then went on to law school at the University of Virginia. Met my fiance there. We both got jobs out here in Houston, and so I'm also here in Houston, like DLA, and yeah, it's yeah, it's exciting. Professionally, I right after law school, I joined a law firm called Sidley Austin. They're a large law firm with a big Houston office, and then, like you said, went on to join ExxonMobil in their tax team. A little about the novel. So like you said, I'm a big history Byzantine nerd, and um, essentially, I think Byzantine history is fascinating because it seems to be a bit of an overlooked area. And my novel focuses on this time period of the Byzantines are in decline. You have the rise of Islam and the Caliphate. So we're looking in like the 600s, 700s era. And basically, you have, Islam and Christianity. You have the waxing and waning of these empires, and lots of questions of faith, and the Crusades not long after. So it's a very exciting time period, and it seems to be a bit overlooked. And so I want to write about two characters. One's a Byzantine, one's an Arab character, and drop them into this kind of this historical context, and kind of follow them um, through this time period, particularly through the second Arab siege of Constantinople, which was in 717. So that's kind of where we are in my novel. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and you mentioned that this is an often overlooked point in history. How did you come across it and develop your passion for it?
Yeah, so I would say it started probably in college. So I was a psychology major, but I double minored in history and Spanish. And the history side, I took some Roman history courses, took a lot of Middle Eastern courses, and then took some Russian history courses. And thinking about it, the Byzantines are the kind of the overlapping of all of those things, where you have, the Byzantines are essentially the Eastern Roman Empire. Um, and like I said earlier, they're kind of on the decline. They're facing Islam, and then you mix in the Kievan Rus up in kind of modern day Kiev, and I think that's kind of where it started, where this interest lied. And then there's a great actually Roman history podcast out there called First the History of Rome, by Mike Duncan, and then it gets picked up by an individual named Robin Pearson out in London, called The History of Byzantium. And so they just follow this kind of like from the founding of Rome in 700 BC or whatever to the collapse in 1453. And so just that plus the courses I took, I was like, this is a fantastic area. Like, this, people need to know about like what's going on in this time period. So.
So is your desire to kind of make it known? Where do you hope that this passion for writing takes you?
I think it's that. I feel like it's to make it known. It's overlooked, and I just want to do a little justice to at least the Eastern Roman Empire. Everybody knows the Latin speaking Western Roman Empire out in Rome, and expanded under like Augustus and Caesar and the various kind of dictators and emperors. But they split in half, and you have the Eastern Roman Empire centered on Constantinople, the Greek-speaking Orthodox East, Byzantines, and yeah, not a lot of people know about it. And this siege that I mentioned, in which I'm writing, you know, a lot of people think of kind of the Battle of Tours out in France, where it kind of stopped the Arab expansion from Spain and saved Europe. But really, you need to go back about 20 years before and go to the Siege of Constantinople, where you know the Byzantines with 9,000 men held out against 120,000 Arab soldiers um, and won. And so it's a great interesting time period that like nobody knows about. And so I think with this book, my hope is to write about it, hopefully get it published, and kind of just do some justice to this time in history that not a lot of people know about.
Yeah. Well, as an attorney, I mean, I assume you're very busy, and it seems like you might have a rather supportive fiance, because writing a book like this, obviously, it takes a lot of time as well. Uh,
Right.
yeah, you want to tell me about that?
Sure. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So I've been marinating on this idea for like 2 or 3 years, and right when I got out of law school and was studying for the bar, my free time, I'd listen to these podcasts I was telling you about, and I was, like, this is a great time in history. Like I need to like write about this. I need to do something. And so, and I generally have, I'm an attorney, so I write as like professionally, and um, so I have this love for writing. But yeah, you're right. Been very busy. Don't have a lot of time. And so finally, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, I was just like, I set a goal where I was like, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to write this story. And my goal was just write an hour a day. Like, if I can just write 1 hour a day, after work or in the morning, and whether I write a paragraph or 10 pages, like just write an hour. And so that's kind of been my goal. And Katie, my fiance, we both met at UVA, and she's an architect here in Houston. She was super supportive, and was like, yeah, you should write this. Like, you'd love it. Like, it makes you happy. Like, you should do it. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, you're right. Like, let me do it. And so having her support, and when I get in like a kind of like you get in a groove, right, where you're writing, and like you're like, oh my god, I gotta finish this scene, like I can't interrupt. Katie will be like, okay, I'll go make dinner, like I'll pay, like, you finish writing, like you're in a groove, like don't interrupt it, like just keep going. I'm like, okay, thanks babe. Like and so yeah, so my fiance has been super supportive. And actually actually month, I think we're 30 days out today, we're getting married. So we're closing in on the wedding date, and so we're both super excited. But yeah, having Katie by my side's been a great help in writing this novel.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on your upcoming wedding. So
Yeah,
actually, you've been even busier than I expected.
yeah, we were up last night, I don't know, like midnight, sending out emails to vendors and layouts and payments to everybody. So it's been a busy time, especially the last like 6 weeks now. The closing in has been very busy.
Yeah, yeah. So you write this novel. Like, what did you see in kind of your experience of writing it that told you, hey, I really need to get, somebody else to look at this for me? Like, were you encountering certain problems, particular roadblocks? What was it that kind of inspired you to maybe think of getting some outside help with it?
Right. No, it's exactly that. So so I am a first time writer, creatively. As attorney, I write a lot, work on contracts, work on, briefs and motions, this and that. But it's not been in a true creative sense. And so when I started out, I I just started writing. And as you mentioned, I'm very busy, so I don't read for fun, because that's all I do with my job. Like, I can't stand, like, honestly, I can't stand reading. Like, I don't even like it's just I do it all the time. I do it so much. I read cases, and so I don't want to read. So I don't read for fun. And so before I became an attorney, I would read historical novels and nonfiction, and historical fiction as well. But I haven't touched that in years. And so when I started writing, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. And so I basically wrote what I would consider the first act of my book, about 2, 3 months ago. Sent it over to DLA and to Terry, and basically, asking, just, can you provide some substantive feedback on this? Like, what am I doing? Am I on the right track? Like, what do I need to change? Like, I want to write. I want to write well, and I need exactly that. I need a professional set of eyes to tell me to guide me in this process. And so that's where I went to DLA, because I didn't want to, and I've heard this before, where first time authors will write this book, but they have such foundational issues in the book that need to be corrected that they have to go back and scrap it. And so I wanted to avoid that. And so I basically wrote what I would consider the, like I just said, the first act, and I sent it over and be like, is this, what do you think about this? What do I need to fix? What do I need to change? Where is it good? Where is it bad? And then take that and finish the novel. So that was the desire to go to DLA.
Yeah. And so when you were kind of coming to the realization, hey, now's the time. I'm at a good point where I do need to go ahead and get an editor for this. What characteristics were you looking for? Like when you were doing your search, what characteristics were you looking for in an editor?
Right. And so I think the two or three primary things is just fair pricing, good turnaround time, and true substantive comments. And so when I was researching editors, there's different blogs, there's different writers are out there, and different websites and whatever. But some people would say that, oh, you either like the charges are extremely high, or the turnaround's really slow, or they don't provide real feedback. And so that was kind of nervous. I'm like, I don't want to, like, I need to find a good editor. And so those were the three criteria I was looking for, pricing, turnaround time, and honest, good feedback. And so researched several different editors, researched your website, read the different comments and reviews, and what I saw with DLA was like, I feel good about this. Like these are the things I'm looking for. Like I'll I can pay for the services. I will get it back, and it'll be exactly what I need to finish this book. And so I would say those were kind of the three main characteristics that I was looking for.
Okay. Yeah, and so you ended up going with the developmental editing service, like you mentioned. You wanted to get kind of that substantive feedback on the work that you had done so far.
Right.
How did your experience with that service compare to what you had been expecting?
Yeah, so it was everything that I was looking for. Terry did a fantastic job. She's kind of the literary expert, from what I can gather. Like she tons of experience, and provided fantastic feedback throughout the book, and gave a good honest review of it, and knew we talked a week or two ago on the phone, and just I could tell that she like knew she knew where I was headed. She like knew the characters really well, and that was fantastic. And that I wasn't expecting that, right? Like I was just saying, you find these like horror stories that some people go through, and yeah, that was not the case at all. Great, just comments, like hundreds and hundreds of comments, little edits, and just she really dove in, and she really, like I said, as a first time author looking for that foundational guidance, she really provided that. And so it was a great experience, and with the turnaround time was fast, right? I got it like with a couple of weeks. Like it was fantastic, and now I can keep pushing forward with the book.
Mhm. So what part of the service would you say that you found, if you were to kind of take a bigger view of it, what part of the service would you say you found to be the most beneficial for you?
um I think it would be, that some of the comments were foundational, but also kind of forward looking. And so there was different points in the service where basically commenting on different sections of the book that would not only tighten up the language, tighten up the foundation, but also kind of would allow me to build off that going into the future with the novel. So I would say within the book itself, it was fantastic, kind of forward-looking advice, not only foundationally, but to finish the book out. And then secondly, being able to apply some of that kind of advice, not just to the book and kind of literary writing, but even to my own practice. And so it was funny. There was a few, there's some comments that Terry made about the use of hyphens, and as you know, as lawyers, I know we love hyphenating adjectives, and so I learned through her comments that what I've been doing has been wrong, and because that's how I use it in my practice, and so it was just I was like, oh my goodness, like I did not know this, and I've been doing this for years, and so being able to take that just outside of the novel, but to a real practical sense. It was also something that I took away from DLA's services. So it was yeah, it was just a great life tip that I now know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you have sort of the first act that you've written, you've done the developmental editing service. It sounds like you've been able to kind of meet your expectations so far. Where are you headed next with your goal of writing this book?
So the goal is now to finish it. So like you said, I finished Act One, and so that kind of sets the foundation for kind of the climax that'll come, and then kind of the end of the book. And so without I can talk about this a little bit, but Act One, in this time period, you have the Arabs continually keep invading the Byzantines, and the Arabs get pushed back, but they're just grinding down the Byzantines, and so they grind them down so much to where the Byzantines only have Constantinople left, and Constantinople at this time had like the largest land walls known to man at this point, and you could only come one way in, and that's where the walls were. And so basically in Act One, I've set the stage where the Byzantines are retreat. They have these two characters, kind of one dealing with the war aspect, but also there's a lot of questions of faith. And so you have the Byzantines who owned all this land. They've lost it all to the Arabs. Like they're Orthodox Christians, and it's like, is God on our side? Like, what is going on? And then you have the Arab kind of caliphate, the Umayyad Caliphate, and they're expanding Islam throughout much of the known world at this point. If you think of what the Romans owned, from Spain, France, England, Italy, the Balkans, Turkey, Israel, North Africa. Well, the Byzantines owned all that, and then they lost it. And if you think of most of the Arab countries today, you think of North Africa, Syria, Turkey, Iraq, all these places that the Byzantines used to own, but they since lost. And so setting that stage, setting up the geopolitical issues, setting up the religious issues, and then finally setting up the siege itself has been the goal of Act One. In which Terry provided fantastic advice and kind of helping me set the stage. Act Two will be ultimately the siege and kind of where these people come out with their beliefs in God, and kind of dealing with the war. And so from there, finish the book and hopefully try to get it published and send it out and see what people think. And from multiple conversations with Terry, there's a great, seems to be a good opportunity for that. And so we'll see how this book goes. And then, since it seems to be going really well, I there's a few other ideas I've been toying with, kind of still within the Byzantine kind of era. There's, it's a fascinating time in history, like I said, and you think of medieval kingdoms and the palace intrigue and the backstabbing and the betrayals. We'll put that on steroids for the Byzantines, and so there's a lot to talk about there. And so, depending on how this goes, maybe push forward another novel and kind of just kind of run with it. But yeah, I think that's kind of some of the forward-looking kind of plans after Act One.
Well, it's certainly an exciting project for that you're working on, and one that we're really excited to be helping you with. So thank you for letting us be a part of that, and congratulations so far on. I don't want you to take this prematurely because obviously you have more work to do, but
Right.
you're congratulations for being on the right track with this, for kind of taking the time and saying, hey, look, this is something that I'm really passionate about. It's really important to me. I want to go ahead and find a way to get this done.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, thank you so much. And again, thank you for kind of services you've provided. It's been super helpful, and guiding me through. Again, I'm a first-time writer. I don't write for fun, like I'm a lawyer, and so it's been a great experience working alongside you, and yeah, look forward to continuing this relationship and this friendship going forward.
Before I let you go, if you had one piece of advice to give to others, somebody else maybe who's working full time and has either toyed with the idea of writing a book or has actually written a draft, and they're kind of skeptical about, I mean, like you mentioned, there's all these kind of horror stories, if you will, about different editing services, whether you'll get it on time, whether you're paying too much, whether you'll get the quality that you're looking for. What would you say to somebody who might be in that position?
Yeah, I would say one, if you're thinking about writing it, take the plunge. You should do it. You're going to regret not doing it. You have this idea, run with it and have a good time with it. But secondly, I would say that if you're looking for an editor, and if you have heard these horror stories, you can come to DLA and you will find the services that you're looking for. You guys, DLA offers a variety of different services, and for someone that's, for me, that's writing fiction, a whole slew of services that you can choose from. And any one of those will help advance your novel, will help kind of guide you through the process, and will make sure that you come out with a good looking book. And so I would say to take the plunge and to use DLA to help guide you there, because whether this is your first draft or even maybe you are an experienced author, but you can always use a good set of professional eyes to look over your work. And I'm a lawyer and I write all the time, and I have other attorneys look at what I've drafted, and so you need a professional set of eyes, and you can get that with DLA.
Awesome. Well, thank you again very much for sharing your story today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Bye for now.
All right. Bye-bye.